Hey, everybody. Today I want to talk about developing a growth mindset. And so the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, because those are two kind of concepts around mindsets, just to give you just a background of this. A fixed mindset is the idea that someone is smart or someone is not smart, and there's nothing they can do about it. Kind of the idea that if someone they're just gifted, it happened at birth, they were lucky, and they won the lottery, and there's nothing you can do about it. And versus someone who, let's say, isn't so smart, and there's nothing they can do about that. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset means that we have the ability to develop our skills. We have the ability to learn more, develop things. And that's the area really that most people subscribe to now, or people who are successful subscribe to, because it allows us to be successful. So that's the biggest thing we want to focus on. And the first part of the trifecta of intelligence is focused around aptitude, the ability to learn. That's number one. You can't develop intelligence if you do not have the ability to learn. And the biggest point coming into that is having a growth mindset. If you don't believe you have the ability to learn, it's going to be really difficult to learn. So I'm going to talk about a few things that we can do to develop a growth mindset and and really build up that aptitude and that intelligence. So the first thing is to be curious. So often what happens is, especially when people become adults, the curiosity drops. So we want to make sure that we continue to be curious, ask questions. When things don't make sense, just ask, research, dig into it. I think a lot of it we're a little we don't want to be humble. We want to act like we have all the answers. And it's really important that we're curious, just like a child is, and ask some really, really obvious questions, around things. There's no shame in it. And I think the people that really gather the most and are sometimes the most intelligent are the people that are the most curious. So, developing that curiosity is really one big step of having a growth mindset. The next one is to stop saying I can't. So we want to say I can. So if you catch yourself saying I can't, or catch people around you saying I can't, change that and start saying I can. It's really important that we have the skills, and we tell ourselves that we can do things. We don't want to keep repeating in our head that we can't, or even using those words verbally. We want to reinforce the fact that we can do things, we can learn. The next thing is to ground lessons in familiarity. So what that means is when you're trying to learn new things, is to connect it with things that are familiar and try to build on what you currently know and your familiar areas. So try to do that. It's really difficult to kind of make a big leap from something you don't know or unfamiliar with into something that is brand new. You need to kind of make those connections between what's familiar and what you're learning or what you're trying to learn. The next one is to seek formal education. So, when you're trying to learn something new, find someone who's teaching the class. Try to learn something brand new. Try to learn it formally. Not everything has to be learned informally. Not everything has to be learned formally. But you want to develop that dig into that formal education and just try to gather it. Someone's already put the information together. May as well just leverage it and use it. So seek out some formal education if you need to. The next one is learn it just in time. Often what happens is people start to gather information or learn things long before they'll ever need it. If you're curious about something or you need it now, learn it now. Pick up a book, find a course, gather the information, and learn the new skill and learn it now. Lifelong learners, that's what they're doing. They're constantly trying to build up their skills as they go and just learn new stuff as they go, as they need it. So that's really important. Next one is to use diagrams and mind maps. I found that's just invaluable for me. There were some concepts that I really, really struggled at, and when I used mind maps and diagrams and flowed things out visually, I started to grasp it a lot better. I'm not going to say everybody's a visual learner. There's a belief that most people are visual learners. I don't know what the percentages are. I know for me, it's much, much easier for me to learn things if it's written down and drawn out in a picture. That's why they have maps, right? That's why they actually had maps to show you where you were going. Of course, if you're driving from Chicago to St. Louis, that map just represented the direction and where you're going and things like that. We know it's on a piece of paper and it's not perfect by design, but it sure gives you a really, really good idea of where the next town is and where you can stop and how far it might be as you get an idea in your head. So use mind maps and diagrams. And if you don't know what mind maps are, do some research. I might put a video together for a mind map or send some information out for a mind map. But gather that information, and that's really, really helpful. The next thing is to use analogies and metaphors. So, it's really, it's a lot easier to connect learning when you're using analogies and metaphors, just like you're grounding your lessons in what you currently know. So use an analogy, is it like this, or is it as that, or is it similar to this, or whatever the situation is. So you can learn actually some pretty complex things by using some analogies. You don't have to actually sometimes get into the real technical type of information and really dig in technically on some knowledge, but what you can do is build connections and learn it through analogies and metaphors. And that really helps you when you are you're trying to learn something new. So those are some of the things that I think are really helpful, when trying to build a growth mindset. So I'll just really quickly rehash it. So be curious. Stop saying I can't. Start saying you can. Ground lessons in familiar areas that you know. Seek formal education. Learn it just in time. Use diagrams, mind maps, that sort of thing, flow charts, draw it out. And the last is to use analogies and metaphors when learning something new. But it's really, really important that we have a growth mindset if we want to learn and develop and be successful. If we have a fixed mindset and we believe we can't do things, or we're feeding that information back, we got to fix that right away. But I believe that everybody has the ability to learn more and to be a great success and to build on the knowledge and capabilities that they currently have. So I recommend you putting those steps in place and just watch yourself become more successful.